So what happens when a brand new pope gets elected and his entire Twitter history just vanishes on that very same day? Well, according to one source, the Power Pundit, that's not just a coincidence. It's actually the first thread in a story that they say connects the Pope directly to Donald Trump. So today, we're going to break down their claims piece by piece and really understand the narrative they've built.
The whole story really kicks off with this one big question. The day he becomes Pope Leo XIV, the Twitter account of the man who used to be Cardinal Robert Provost is just gone, wiped clean. The source uses this to ask a pretty loaded question. What exactly was he trying to hide?
And to answer that, the Power Pundit claims to have a look at what was on that deleted account. They argue that it creates this sort of digital ghost that leaves behind a very, very clear political footprint.
So, what are we talking about here? Well, according to the source, the account was constantly sharing articles on some pretty specific topics. Things like, criticisms of Donald Trump's rhetoric, calls for gun control, support for the Catholic climate petition, and even an article with the headline, JD Vance is wrong. The Power Pundit argues, look, this isn't just a random mix of posts. This is a pattern.
And this brings us to a really crucial detail that the source makes. He almost never wrote his own attacks on these political figures. Instead, what he did, consistently, was share articles from other people who were doing the criticizing for him. And the source's argument is that this isn't random at all. It's a very deliberate, long-term pattern of signaling his views without actually having to write them himself.
But the story is far from over with just the deleted tweets. Because according to the source, once screenshots of these alleged posts started making the rounds, Donald Trump responded. And that response was, let's just say, very public and very fast.
And when I say fast, I mean it. Over just 72 hours, Trump came after the Pope 3 separate times. Sunday, boom, a post on Truth Social. Monday, reporters ask him if he'll apologize, and he flat out refuses. And by Tuesday, he's posting again, this time taking a shot about Iran. The source really highlights this as just an unprecedented string of attacks from a president against a pope.
And the confrontation itself was incredibly blunt. Trump didn't dance around it at all, just came out and said, Pope Leo said things that are wrong. The Power Pundit presents this as a key moment, basically suggesting that, with the context of those deleted tweets, Trump felt he had all the proof he needed to justify hitting back so publicly. From there, the story takes a pretty interesting turn. It starts to focus on this high-profile meeting at the Vatican that the source frames as a really important piece of a much bigger puzzle.
So this next piece of the puzzle, according to the source, happens on April 9th. It's a private meeting between Pope Leo and David Axelrod. And you might remember, Axelrod was the chief political strategist behind both of Barack Obama's winning presidential campaigns. Now, here's a little detail the source finds so revealing. In his statement after the meeting, Axelrod made a point to say that it was, and I'm quoting here, unrelated to any prospective meeting with President Obama. And the source asks, well, why would you even say that? Nobody was publicly suggesting there was a connection yet. Why deny something nobody was even asking about?
And this is where the source kind of pulls out a map, so to speak. Barack Obama, he's from Chicago. David Axelrod, from Chicago. And Pope Leo XIV, yep, also from Chicago. Meanwhile, the source makes a point to note that the current president, Donald Trump, still hasn't had a meeting with the new pope.
Now, this whole conflict didn't just stay between Washington and the Vatican. The source explains how it pretty quickly started to create some major diplomatic fallout over in Europe.
And a prime example they point to is the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. Before this, she was seen as one of Trump's staunchest allies in Europe. But after his attacks on the Pope, she publicly broke with him, releasing a statement that called his words unacceptable. So, how did Trump respond to that? Well, his response was sharp, and it was personal. He told an Italian newspaper, "I'm shocked at her. I thought she had courage, but I was wrong." The source holds this quote up as proof of just how serious that rift had become.
And the source argues this wasn't just a war of words. It had real-world policy consequences. They directly linked this diplomatic break to a huge policy shift. Italy then went on to suspend its defense cooperation agreement with Israel. That's a pretty significant move for a key Western ally.
All right, let's get to the final piece of the puzzle that the source presents. And this one reveals what they say is a hidden history of conflict between the Pope and Vice President JD Vance.
So the vice president, who is Catholic himself, actually went on the record and said the Pope should be careful when he talks about matters of theology. And the source really emphasizes the weight of a comment like that, a politician publicly warning the head of the Catholic Church about theology.
But here's the twist. The source claims this wasn't actually the start of their disagreement. Nope. They say the real story was buried in that now deleted Twitter account.
And this is the big connection the source makes. Long before Vance ever made his comment, they claimed the Pope, back when he was Cardinal Prevost, had shared an article with the headline, JD Vance is wrong. The argument here is simple. The Pope criticized Vance first, shared it for everyone to see, and then, as the source puts it, deleted the evidence.
Okay, so when you lay all these different pieces out on the table, the source argues that a really comprehensive narrative starts to take shape. Let's just quickly recap how they claim it all connects.
So here's the story arc the Power Pundit lays out for us. It all starts with those deleted tweets, which they say created a clear political trail. That, in turn, prompted Trump's very direct confrontation. Then you have what they frame as this suspicious private meeting with Obama's strategist, which they then connect to a major crack in a key European alliance. And the final piece of that puzzle is the hidden history with the vice president.
And Donald Trump's own summary of those initial deleted posts? Just 2 words on Truth Social. Not good. The Power Pundit uses all these events to weave together a pretty complex web of political influence and conflict. The real question they leave you with is whether these are truly connected dots or just a series of coincidences.